Welcome to Nationwide, and our first story this evening has a gathering connection. In this year of the gathering, there have been many people delving into their roots and wanting to make connections with people and places. And for one Canadian family, it's been a long and difficult journey. They knew they were descended from an Irish family that fled the famine, but they couldn't find out any more because, unknown to them, the family name had been lost in translation and also misspelt by officials. Now, though, thanks to a local history group in Mullaghmore in County Sligo, the Kavanagh family have come home to their roots. Eileen Magner has the story.
166 years ago, they left this place. The trees were shorter.
5 generations on, descendants of Pat and Sarah Caveney from Cross in Caish, County Sligo, returned from Canada to what remains of the original homestead, a family mystery finally resolved.
It was very emotional. It was certainly overwhelming. I didn't, realize the impact that it would have, and it was beautiful.
The story of the Caveney family begins like many others, a story told by the Mullaghmore Heritage Group for the year of the gathering. It was 1847, famine was raging and emigration was the only hope of survival. Pat, Sarah and their 6 children sailed for Canada on an assisted passage scheme organised by their landlord, Lord Palmerston.
A total of 5,000 people left this area. It halved the population of the area.
It's a huge number.
It is a huge number. It must have had devastating implications for the entire community. They went out as whole families, so every village, we have the townlands of most of the people who went out, we know the townlands, every townland was affected.
But the Caveney story was particularly tragic. They sailed on the ship called the Carricks, which was shipwrecked within sight of the Canadian coast. It's thought over 80 of those on board were drowned, including 5 of the 6 Caveney children.
I can't imagine picking up the pieces when all your family is wiped out except for your oldest child. Nevertheless, they persevered and went on and had 4 more children, 3 sons and a daughter.
The Mullaghmore Heritage Group traced a number of families who left Sligo on Palmerston's scheme, but the Caveney story was the most challenging because when they got to Canada, the family name was written down by officials as Kavanagh instead of Caveney. So when their descendants tried to trace them back to Ireland, they met a brick wall. That is, until they came in contact with the Mullaghmore Group, and they in turn enlisted the help of the Sligo Genealogy Centre.
We knew from the shipping list that there were no Kavanaghs on that ship, but there was a family called Caveney, and we found out that the Kavanagh family, that there were 8 in that family, and there was a Pat Caveney on the ship with 8 in the family, and from there on we started to work and got other connections, and eventually we got connections enough to know that we're talking about the same family. From our point of view, it was a dream come true really, because here we had an extraordinary event. The famine itself was an extraordinary story, a ship being wrecked, and now we had a contact with a descendant of a survivor. These are all the passengers on the Carricks, and 117 from the Ballymote estate, and you see Cross, Pat Caveney there. 5 of the girls were drowned in the tragedy, the sinking of the Carricks. We were able to get some of the names of those children from baptismal records. The family had never known those names, and they were very emotional about that.
We looked for your ancestors in our records, and we came across the baptismal record of 2 children. We found Catherine, who was born on the 1st of February 1844, and Sarah, who was born on the 25th of March 1846.
Despite the dreadful loss of 5 children, the Caveneys made a new life in the Gaspé Peninsula area of Quebec, and the family grew and did well in Canada. So who was Dominic now?
So Dominic was one of the 3 boys born in Canada after Patrick and Sarah immigrated from Ireland.
It must have been awfully hard, but they were very strong people. And I think, wow, I don't know if I could survive the devastations that they've been through, but it's amazing. It really is.
But another amazing revelation for the Canadians was the discovery that they had living relatives still in Sligo. Patrick and Pat Ward of Caish are descended from Pat Caveney's sister, and they brought them to see where the family had left from.
This was the house.
This was the
this
house?
was the house. This
Yes.
here. This just
On this
that was the wall.
That was the outside wall.
That was the outside wall. I was just getting it.
back
That was where the
wall.
bed was.
Oh, that was the back wall.
The back wall. And to see the post, it went out to the very edge of the road.
When the Caveneys left, it was traditional to bring coals from the emigrating family's fire to a neighbour's house, and if they returned, the coals would be taken back to symbolise the home fire never going out.
You're very welcome home to cross to leaking a fire again.
Just thank you very much.
Marvellous to meet them. There was a great emotional, when we met first there in Mullaghmore. It was marvellous. Like, it was a great, you had a great feeling.
Yeah.
Think that someone after all that time had made and the best thing was that there was something to come back to, even though it was only a wall of a house, but that was there. And the man that owns this land is a very progressive farmer, and he always left that there. For some reason, maybe it was meant to be.
It was a great honour to welcome them home here today.
And do you think you'll keep up much contact with them?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll keep up contact. I was already speaking with Rosemary. I have a brother that lives in Canada, so I'm sure we'll connect when we go visit.
I was really surprised to see that there was actually a piece of the house still standing, and I thought of them leaving and thinking, where am I going? What am I going to do? Who am I going to meet? And I think, oh my goodness, leaving all the neighbors behind and their relatives. And I thought, oh my goodness, it must have been devastating.
It's like coming home. It really is like coming home, and just wanting to stay, and especially meeting up with cousins who, we had no idea, even though, the family name is not Caveney, but we will be seeing them later. So yeah, it means a great deal.
And I thank you very, very much for all the trouble you went through to find, to get all the about our ancestors. Mm-hmm.
So you're glad you made the journey?
Yes, I'm very, very glad. I'm happy that I made it. And I thank the Lord for everything.
It's been a long journey, but now that the connection has been made, it's hoped to forge further links between school children in Caish and Canada, and between a family separated for over 160 years.
An example there of how the gathering has been bringing families separated by the famine back together again, back here to Ireland to meet distant relatives for the first time. And I've no doubt that the Kavanagh family story is replicated up and down the country.